Hello and welcome to Burn the Ships MLB Trade Deadline recap. Today we are here once again. We are joined by our old friend. Well, he's not old, but he's a friend.
I'm old.
Justin Russo.
I'm old.
By night. Justin, how are you doing after recovering from the MLB Trade Deadline?
I'm still alive, so that's obviously a good thing. It's been a long day. Actually, it's weird. Like I feel like yesterday was a longer day,
Yeah.
and like the 2 days prior to this were just really weird, and then today was kind of like the calm before what you thought would be a storm, and then realized it was just a light drizzle.
Yes, it was. That's perfect. I mean, because that's the thing. We heard all week leading up to today about how July 31st, Padres are going to make a flurry of trades. They have three ways lined up. They have all these things. And Abraham Almonte, you are the one traded from the Padres.
That's the trade, and it's kind of funny. I don't disagree with San Diego's mentality of we're just going to ride this one out. And I think because it would have been wildly imprudent of them to make all those moves at the end of last season or December or whatever during the winter meetings, and then go into this year and be like, okay, guys, it didn't work half the year. Let's just get out of here, you know? So I think it's okay for what they did. Yeah, they're 4 games under 500. They're like 7.5 back in the second wild card spot. I think they're 8 or so back in their division. So yeah, like it looks bad, but you know, you and I talked about this before we went on the air. It's like it looks bad now, but their schedule's really easy for like the next 20 or 21 days. Like they get 3 against the Marlins now, they get 4 against the Brewers, and then 3 against the Phillies. Like those are 10 games against really bad teams. And then you have 9 games after that against other subpar teams. So you have 19 games against these really bad teams that now they've just won a couple against the Mets. You know, they stole that series out of the Mets, you know, especially with Justin Upton hitting that 3-run home run in the rain, the pouring rain of Citi Field yesterday. So, you know, I mean, look, the Padres have issues. They don't field the ball really well. Guys can't stay healthy. They fired their manager. You know, their rotation hasn't been as good as they thought it would be. But at the same time, we've seen teams turn it around.
Yes.
And you know what's funny is this could be a rallying point for the Padres. It could be a, hey, look, they could have gave up on us. They could have sent us places that we kind of didn't care about, you know, just because it was best for them. But they believe in us, and you know what? Let's go out there and let's perform. And it could be a rallying point. Do I think it will be? I don't know. But I think they made the right decision to go for it. By not dealing Upton, they can offer him the qualifying offer, get the pick or whatever. And I don't know if they keep Upton, but they should try to. But I agree with not dealing him unless you got blown away.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I think that another reason people might have been expecting them to make a deal and, you know, just saying, you know what, screw it, this didn't work out, is because they did fire Bud Black, who I think many consider a very good manager. And they decided to cut bait with that and just, you know, they are under 500 now, so people thought, you know what, they're going to cut bait with this. They're going to restock the farm system, get rid of dead money. But, I mean, you mentioned the schedule, which the only series I'm worried about them potentially losing is at Coors Field because crazy things can happen there. But Miami, Milwaukee, Philly, Cincinnati, they can win all those series.
Yeah, then Colorado, Atlanta. Like, they can win those.
Yeah.
You know, and then that sets them up with like a 2-game or 2-series stretch where they get 6 against St. Louis and Washington, which aren't obviously easy. But then it's Philadelphia and Texas again. Then it's the Dodgers. But then you go back to Colorado. Like, you can get these series against teams that aren't going to essentially like kill you. You know, like they get 3 against Milwaukee at this swing around from the end of September to the beginning of October. So it's like if they're in it by that time, it's worth it. You know, I mean,
yeah.
That's the thing with the second wild card. It's made everything a little bit tougher. Like teams believe that they're in it when they probably aren't, and other teams believe they're out of it when they are in it. Like the White Sox and the Tigers. Okay, like this is what this has to do with too. Like a little bit with the Padres. Like the Tigers are only 3.5 out of the second wild card. That's the same distance the White Sox are. But the White Sox are seen as buyers, and the Tigers were obviously sold. So it's like it's what you believe at the time. And the Tigers were scuffling, but they just won 2 in a row. But they were still scuffling. The White Sox, I believe, were like 7-3 in their last 10. They performed really well. So, it's kind of how you perceive things internally. And the Padres perceived that maybe they can make a run just like the White Sox did. And the Tigers just thought, you know what? We're not going to be able to make it.
Well, yeah, I mean, the one additional thing I'll say for the Padres, which if they can get healthy, which obviously is a big if, but you look at that bullpen. If you get into the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th inning with the lead, odds 9 times out of 10 they're going to win that game.
Yeah.
So if the rotation can be a little bit better, the offense scores some runs, they'll be reeling off some wins.
Because we're talking about Joaquin Benoit, and then we're talking about Craig Kimbrell as your 8-9 guys. Like Kimbrell, the last 2 months has been since I remember I posted out today. Like everyone's talking about how much Craig Kimbrell struggled this year, but it's like, have you watched him lately? Because since May 25th, he's got an ERA under 1. He's striking out 35% of the batters he's facing. It's like
if he's struggling.
Yeah, if that's struggling, I don't know what struggling really is then, because he's turned it around. What's it called? Brandon Maurer has been solid for them out of the bullpen this year. I want to say Kelly and Quackenbush have been good for them this year. Like they have guys who've been solid, but they need to get Joaquin Benoit back to a level. Like even though his ERA is like 2.3 or something, his peripheral stats are a little bit worse. But he's been good. But when you get a lead, like we saw with the Royals last year, if you get a lead after 6 innings, the game's over. And that's what the Padres can bank on if everything's, going according to plan. Now, can they get the ball to those guys in the 6th inning? I don't know. Tyson Ross has been good this year. Andrew Kachner has been solid from everything I've seen. You don't know what you're going to get out of James Shields. Like, you think he's been good, but you never know. Brandon Morrow, he's only pitched 5 games. The back end of the rotation has been bad. Despaigne, Ian Kennedy has been terrible. It's just – but if guys can put it together for 2 months, like Kennedy's been good like before. So it's like if guys can just put it together for 2 months, you never know. That's just kind of how it goes.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, there will be sides already putting out their winners and losers. Padres are going to be one of the biggest losers out there. But just, as we said, if you look at the overall situation, it's really early to be saying they lost.
Yeah. There's guys on that team, we're talking about a Justin Upton, a Derek Norris, a Will Venable. Yonder Alonso missed some time. So did Venable. It's like they're getting these guys back, and now, you don't know. Like Will Myers, like people thought Will Myers was going to be a player for them, but he's been injured. Matt Kemp's missed a little bit of time here and there. What's it called? I think they just brought up Spangenberg, the second baseman.
Spangenberg, and then Gallardo has just came, but at times he's been doing good.
Yeah, so it's like, Will Middlebrooks. Okay, they got Will Middlebrooks from Boston. And it's like he's been not good, but these are guys that we've seen that at least had potential to be good. So like Will Myers, for instance, like we saw what he was capable of. He's injured. He's having downtime. Like the entire, like we said it when Bud Black was fired, right? Like their team was injured and he got blamed for it. So who knows? Maybe this is a rallying point for them. Like I said, like, hey, the front office believes in us, even despite everything that's happened. Let's show them that they were right to believe in us. And it's not out of the realm of possibility they can make a run at the second wild card.
Definitely.
The Giants are 7.5 up on them, but the Giants are hit and miss sometimes. They go through scoring swoons and they go through booms. Their pitching's always consistent, but you never know.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing that what it comes down to is the Giants have been streaky as heck this season. They'll go on they've won like 13 of the past 15, but in a week or two they'll have lost 8 of the past 10. They'll have another streak like that. They'll have another winning streak. There's ways to catch up to them in the standings.
Well, you got to remember, they started the year 4-10. They were 4-10 to start the year.
And a month ago, they had the same record as the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, I mean, look, they were what were they? They were 43-43 as of July 8th. Then they won 3 in a row against the Phillies, and now all of a sudden, so 43-43. Now they're 56-45. You just don't know.
Yeah.
You never know. You know, and look at the schedule they just played. Phillies, okay, so Phillies, Diamondbacks, Padres, Oakland, Milwaukee. Which of those teams is good? San Diego's the only team that you can at least say gave them, like, could give you some kind of competition, because Oakland's the worst team in the AL, I believe. So it's like, you know, they played bad. They did what the Padres are about to be doing. You know what I mean? Like, they're about to be playing all these bad teams. So you got to give them time to play the bad teams before we put the nail in the coffin of San Diego. Because who knows? In 3 weeks, we could just be talking about how San Diego's somehow 3 games back in the division or the wild card, and, man, maybe they made the right decision, you know? It could also go sour. Like, don't get me wrong, it could also go sour.
Yeah.
But I like their schedule. I think A.J. Preller believes, and I think that's okay.
Yeah. And one of the teams we did mention earlier, back in the American League, Kansas City Royals, they didn't do that much. They did, but the 2 big trades they made, really the only trades they made, acquiring Johnny Cueto and Ben Zobrist. What were your thoughts on both deals overall?
Well, it's funny because the Cueto trade, I actually thought they did really well. Like, I like Brandon Finnegan, but he's got to get stretched out to be a starter again. And John Lamb is a solid prospect who can be good. But I didn't feel like they gave up that much for him. You know, like, we all remember Brandon Finnegan when he came up last year, right? Like, he came up and all you ever heard in the pro season was, oh, he was just drafted this year. They brought him up, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, you know, I think the Reds did good to get talent for him. But I think the Royals did good of basically saying, you know what? We have arms kind of waiting. Let's deal a couple and just get somebody who's going to help push us over the top, because they lacked an ace last year in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, sure, they pitched well, but they relied on Jason Vargas and James Shields to not, you know, be bad. And they, you know, Yordano Ventura struggled this year, but last year he gave them a lift, you know, and now you get a guy who, top of the rotation, ace-style pitcher, second to Clayton Kershaw in the last, like, 5 years ERA, okay? So you're getting a guy who performs. You're getting a guy who a lot of people in the American League haven't seen. So it creates a deception-style thing for them where now they haven't seen Cueto and his delivery and his pitches and his arsenal, and now they got to deal with it. So they got their ace, and you can't hate on it. With the Zobrist trade, they give up Mania, is it Mania or Manea? I can't remember how to pronounce it. It might be Manea. Then they gave up Aaron Brooks, who I jokingly said reminds me of the former New Orleans Saints quarterback. So that's always good. And then and now younger people will say Aaron Brooks of the Chicago Bulls, but I'll let that one slide. But I like Zobrist for them because he can play left field while Alex Gordon's out, so he can't play left field. But when Alex Gordon comes back, now there's your second baseman. You don't have to play Omar Infante. So,
thank goodness.
Yeah, thank God. Potential All-Star Omar Infante, by the way. Let's not forget that. But I love the deal for Kansas City. They made trades before other teams got a chance to figure out what was going on. That's a huge deal.
Yeah. And also, those are 2 great points you brought up. I mean, one with Kansas City, they basically set the market. They said, this is what market is. We're going to set it. We're going to pay at these prices. They didn't have to overpay. They didn't get behind. They set the market. They made it more of a buyer's market, though I did like for Oakland getting Sean Manaea. And then the other thing, I mean, one thing is just Ben Zobrist, thank you for the day you are replacing Omar Infante. I mean, Omar just
he's bad.
Dreadful. Just dreadful. And then the one other point I like that you brought up is about the new, it's kind of not in a new way, but new experience for America, because they haven't seen Cueto that much. So it's a new little wrinkle that they'll have to deal with on top of facing an ace pitcher. And for Kansas City to get that.
Well, here's the thing, too.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, too, about that. Okay, so American League pitchers haven't really seen Cueto, right? But Zobrist has seen a lot of those American League pitchers because he's been in the AL East, then he's been in the AL West, and now he's in the AL South. Like, he's seen a lot of these guys. So they got a guy as a hitter who's familiar with what he's seen, and then they got a pitcher who no one's familiar with. So it's like you're filling guys in who now you have the advantage in matchups. And now, like we said, Alex Gordon comes back, no Omar Infante ever again, except for maybe certain off days, and that's a big deal.
Well, yeah, and the one thing with Finnegan is, I mean, and this is kind of the issue I had during the year with Kansas City. He was yanked around so much between the bullpen and starting in AAA. Just, I mean, it long term probably won't mess him, but it wasn't the right fit for him at the time. So moving him out, he wasn't a piece that he was useful to Kansas City this year. Cueto is a huge piece for them that fills a dire need. So that's a huge one for Kansas City.
It's funny because, I made reference to this, I want to say yesterday or 2 days ago about the Angels with their prized prospect, Sean Newcomb, right, who they just promoted yesterday. Okay, so they brought him up to Double-A. There was word that just came out, I saw from Alden Gonzalez, I believe, that were like the Angels don't believe he'll be ready for basically the rotation next year, right? But that's fine because and this is my point though. Like, okay, so you have Newcomb and you have Finnegan. What do they have in common? They're both lefties, right? But they both have the potential to be power lefties. And this harkens back to the day when the Rays brought up David Price for the stretch run. And it was, look, we have this kid who's a really good starting pitching prospect. Let's put him in the bullpen, try to get some outs with him as a power lefty out of the pen, and then stretch him into a starter after that. The Royals tried to do that with Finnegan. Maybe next year he was going to be a starter. But now they don't have to worry about that because now they got a guy who's a starter. And for the Angels with Newcomb, it's like now you can take your time. Basically, when he's ready to come up, you put him in as a power lefty out of the bullpen. He gets guys out with his fastball and curve. You then build him into the starter right then and there afterwards. Now, do I think they're going to do that? No, because the Angels aren't that forward thinking. But whatever, But at the end of the day, with Brandon Finnegan, for him, and you're right, he no longer gets jerked around from AAA to the bullpen in the majors. Now they're stretching him out in Cincinnati to be a starter. That's what they're going to build him into. That's what he's used to, and that's what he'll probably be best at. And this is the cool thing. If he's not a good starter, what have you already seen out of him? He's been a good lefty arm out of the bullpen. Now you put him back in the bullpen, and who do you have? Brian Mattis of the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah. And this is the thing. It's like a star pitching prospect. Like, I mean, you could say, wait, they don't turn out to be great starting pitcher. People are like, well, this is a bust. But they turn into a phenomenal pitcher out of the bullpen. I mean, you have an 8th, 9th inning guy, and you should be ecstatic. But it's just overreaction because he was labeled a starting pitcher. It didn't work out. So people are like, well, that's it with him.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I wrote that last week. I said, you know what the cool thing is with the Angels? And I know I'm going to talk about the Angels for a second. I'm sorry because that's what I deal with. But
I'll be talking about the Giants. It's cool.
Yeah, no, it's fine. But with the Angels, it's like, okay, they have all these starting pitchers, right? Like built into the rotation and guys who are waiting. Here's the thing. A, you can never have too much starting pitching. We've learned that over the years, right? B, if some of them don't pan out as starters, those are guys like we just said, you put in the bullpen. Now you don't have to worry about throwing 5, 6, 7, 8 innings a night or every 5th day. Now you can worry about, okay, 1 inning max effort, let's go. And you're getting these guys like a Wade Davis and even farther back in Eric Gagne. Yeah. Even if you want to go farther back, like Dennis Eckersley, he had success as a starter, then got moved to the bullpen, and it's like he paid off, obviously, but it's like you always want more options. And if a guy fails at starting pitcher, you can put him in the bullpen. I mentioned his name, Brian Mattis. Didn't do well as a starter, but what'd you get out of him? You got a guy who came out of the bullpen and murders lefties. Lefties do not hit well against him at all. And that's the thing. You get guys like Andrew Miller, okay? Andrew Miller, when he got drafted by the Tigers, sent to Miami, what was he? A starting pitcher. Flamed out, gets sent to Boston. Boston then just says, you know what? Just focus on being a reliever. And then all of a sudden, Andrew Miller is just killing people in the 8th inning. Then he gets sent to Baltimore, kills in the 8th inning there. Now he's a closer. You need guys who have stuff, and that they have at the worst one great pitch and one really good pitch, and they can develop that as a bullpen guy. Because out of the bullpen, you only need 2 pitches, right? And sometimes maybe a third as like a show-me pitch. Andrew Miller has that. Aroldis Chapman has that. There's been talk about putting, and we'll talk about Chapman in a minute in terms of the fact he didn't get traded. But Chapman has 3 pitches, and there's talk now about stretching him out to be a starter, which to me, I don't think you do that. And the Diamondbacks, inquired about Aroldis Chapman. And this goes back to the Padres in a roundabout way. Teams who are 7.5, 8 out that think they have a chance. Diamondbacks have won 5 in a row. They've looked good. Guys are starting to hit. Pitching's looking like it's coming around a little bit. Now you get Aroldis Chapman. Now you got a guy who dominates the end of a game. Maybe can even potentially get you 6 outs.
Yeah.
So this trade deadline was crazy. But I think like going back to the Royals, which is what we started on, and I know I've gone around and around, but the Royals got guys who make impacts, which is just like the Houston Astros did. And like the Blue Jays. Blue Jays probably got the 2 biggest impact guys, so we can throw that out there.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's transition to the Astros. Scott Kazmir, I mean, this is a guy that, people were writing about just from a fantasy perspective. They were worried about, him giving up more home runs. But he's getting ground balls, and he's going from Oakland, which was the infield was terrible defensively. Yeah. And now he's going to have Carlos Correa, Jose Altuve. Are you kidding me? He's going to fall in love with that place.
And Jed Lowry at third. Don't undersell that.
Yes.
I think Lowry at third. Yeah, I think Lowry at third can be a really good thing for them. So we will see how that works out. He played third for them yesterday. So that'll be very interesting to see how it works out. But as you said, that Astros infield can field. And at least up the middle they can field. And that's a big deal. And where did the Astros improve this year? Up the middle defensively. Yep. Brought in Carlos Correa, promoted him. Then they traded for Carlos Gomez. Okay? So it's like now you got guys who they field the ball, they can also hit, and they're under control.
And bullpen.
So these are very good moves that the Astros made. I'd put them right there with the Royals. Like, these are the 2 teams in the AL. Like, you got to beat now.
Because, that's the thing. Looking at the Astros, and before they made these trades, before Fiers and before Kazmir, you have Velasquez, who I like a lot, but he was moved to the bullpen, obviously, with the additions. Lance McCullers is turning into a stud. But they're also running out some just questionable pitchers out there. So to get them out and replace them with Kazmir, love it.
Yeah, they were running out McGew, which Colin McHugh's good. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say Colin McHugh's not good, but Colin McHugh's good. Kazmir's great. Keuchel's good. And now you got McCullers, who, like, in a weird way, now they're protected with McCullers. Because if he starts to wear down at the end of the year because of a higher innings load, and by the end of the year, okay, McCullers are struggling, well, now you got Kazmir. So now you got Keuchel and Kazmir as your 1-2, and McHugh is going to be there as your 3. You're protected, Feldman has not been good.
No.
Straley wasn't good for the couple games. Roberto Hernandez, the artist officially referred to as Fausto Carmona, was terrible for them. I think they started Wojciechowski 3 times or something like that, and he was bad. Look, their rotation needed help. They got help internally with McCullers, but now you get Kazmir, and that's the thing, is now you got guys who are at least dependable in some fashion. Keuchel's great, as we know. So now you got one guy who gets ground ball outs. Kazmir can just get outs. McCullers has been good. He gets ground ball outs, not at the high rate that Keuchel does, but like 50%, right? Like you're going to take a guy who gets half his outs on the ground, And that's the thing. Like, look at McCullers. He's striking out 9 guys per 9. So you're getting a batter out in an inning. He's getting a fly ball in inning or a ground ball in inning out. And basically after that, he's been great. The Astros are poised. And that's the thing, too. They got guys with control minus Kazmir, but they got guys with control.
Yeah. And then we had the addition of Carlos Gomez. You're going to have George Springer coming back in a few weeks. You said it, though. This team's going to be right up there with the Royals as the top 2 dogs in the American League. And
that's the thing, too. Okay, so Springer comes back. He's an everyday player. Gomez is an everyday player, too, right? So now you got center field and right field locked up for the foreseeable future and for this year, which means that in left field, you can play platoons with Colby Rasmus against a righty, or Evan Gattis against a lefty, or Preston Tucker if you really want to instead of Colby Rasmus one day, or say like George Springer struggled against righties sometimes if they believe he has, then you can play, Rasmus and Tucker together. Like, they have options. Their depth got improved way, way, way over the top for this. The interesting thing with Jed Lowry coming back, too, is because he's going to be playing third base a little bit, now you can platoon first base between
Valbuena.
Chris Carter, and who's the other guy that I'm
Valbuena.
Thank you, Luis Valbuena. So now you got two power hitting, low average guys, but sort of high on base percentage guys considering their low averages. They're both hitting under 200, but their on base is pushing 3. They hit for power. So now you have guys who know a role. Catcher, they have Jason Castro and Hank Conger. You know, they can DH one of them if they want. Like, they have all these options now. That's what's cool about the Astros. And I don't think they really killed their farm system, you know, because their top, like 3 of their top 4 prospects are guys they literally just drafted, you know. So, and there's I think there's MLB.com has their number 2 prospect, I want to say, is Mark Appel, which I don't buy into. I don't think Appel's that great, but, you know, I mean, he's something. That's a guy, maybe a bullpen arm. You know, like maybe that's the next Wade Davis, honestly. Like he can throw hard, but he's got to harness it. And maybe him getting an inning or 2 a night, or, you know, just being a bullpen guy, maybe that harnesses what he can do. But obviously that's down the line. But that's the thing, is like the Astros now have guys who are interchangeable. They're puzzle pieces, but you also got guys who are going to play every day. You got your Altuve, you got your Correa, you got your Gomez, you got your Springer, you got your Jed Lowry on the days that he's able to play. You got your Castro O'Connor at catcher every night. You got your rotation. That's going to be a good team. They are a good team. They're going to be a tough team.
And one thing, because, you know, this is just going back to basic, but like some people hate on the platoon, but with the platoons can be very good, because if you get a guy who kills righties, doesn't hit versus lefties, you have that lefty killer to plug it, and I mean, really, when you look at the numbers, you have a great option right there that works perfectly for your lineup.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. You know, I look at it a little bit like basketball, right? Like, guys need to know what role they have.
Yep.
Okay. Do you care? Like, some guys do. Okay, like I know some guys care. Matt Kemp cares. I know he cares about how much he plays. But
Josh Reddick cares.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, here's the thing. If you know you get to the ballpark every day and you know you're facing a righty and you know you hit righties well, you're playing against that righty. And if you know you don't hit lefties well, you don't take the day off. Maybe we can use it as a pinch hitter later on in the game. Like, they're going to have the ability to do things. Same thing with the Royals. You got Royals and Astros, and I never thought I could say this 5 years ago. The Royals and the Astros might be shaping up for an ALCS appearance or championship series appearance. And that is something 5 years ago I don't even know what I would have done. I would have just laughed at you or something. So,
how did we get here?
I don't know. I thought we were going to get, you know, I wrote on Twitter, I believe like a year ago, we're going to get an Astros Cubs World Series soon. So we could,
you know, that Cubs thing is for another, because I mean, Chris Bryant, there's a lot of hype there, but I feel like he's not first in Rookie of the Year race.
No, he's not. It's between him and Peterson, and there's someone I'm forgetting.
So, yeah, I will say this: I wouldn't vote for Duffy, but his numbers are solid this year.
Well, that's the thing. Is like these. It's funny, isn't it? Like, you have these contenders. What are they getting? Production out of rookies.
Yep.
You know. You got Chris Bryant on the Cubs, Matt Duffy on the Giants, Jock Peterson on the Dodgers, Jung Ho Kang with the Pirates.
Jung Ho Kang. Yeah.
Randall Grichuk's been great. You know, which pains me considering.
Michael Franco's even been solid.
Michael Franco's been great. Oh God, who was the guy I was just thinking of? Noah Syndergaard.
Yep.
Been great, you know.
Giants ERA leader, Chris Heston.
Yeah, like that's like these are guys that you gotta look at, you know. I mean,
yeah.
The rookie, it's funny too. I was noticing it the other day. It's like players are coming up younger now, but they're producing really well. They're not even like afraid of the bright lights. It's like, yeah, whatever. Like, you know, it's great. It's good for the game. They need younger guys. They need to stop having the retreads. You know, we can't see LaTroy Hawkins get traded and pitch for his 800th team in 20 years. You know.
LaTroy, but that's the perfect segue going to the Toronto Blue Jays. You know, not a big enough deals being made. I mean, Troy Tulowitzki was the headliner, but LaTroy Hawkins was, I mean, the biggest. No, not really, but Troy Tulowitzki and David Price and Ben Revere.
Yeah.
Why don't you lead off with that for Toronto?
Okay, look, this is what I loved. I love the Ben Revere addition because
That's
of
my
one
favorite.
thing. Because of one thing in particular, or two things really. One, he gets on base, and as a leadoff guy, that's awesome. Okay, number two, he is fast, so he's going to put pressure on the opposing pitchers when he is on base, which means more fastballs and more pitches to hit for Troy Tulowitzki, Josh Donaldson, Jose Bautista, Edwin Encarnacion. All these guys who all they do is slug and they kill pitching. These are now you got a guy in front of him who, if he's on base, he sets the table. Troy Tulowitzki can run, obviously not like he used to be able to, but he's able to do it. Josh Donaldson has been able to do it this year. They're getting on base, and that's the one thing that the Blue Jays have that no one else has now is they have a lineup that gets guys on base and can score runs at a prodigious pace. And I didn't mean to rhyme there, but it actually worked. And so they have all these guys, but now what they do after that, they get David Price. And they got Mark Lowe, who was a solid reliever because they needed some bullpen help. But that's the thing though, is the Blue Jays now, they're going to have David Price as the guy. And in a one-game playoff, that will be their guy. And they're going to roll with him. They got Donaldson at third as a defender, who's awesome. Tulowitzki at shortstop, who's a good defender. Devon Travis at second base, who I believe is a good defender. And then at first base, Encarnacion. So it's like you have these guys. And Russell Martin's a very good defensive catcher.
Yep.
So it's like they have these guys. And that's the thing that I think people are kind of sleeping on is like the Blue Jays went out and got players. And, yeah, they were big names, but they'd also fit.
Yeah.
So that's a real big deal for them. And we're going to paint them as the winners because they got everyone who you classify as a big name. Troy Tulowitzki wasn't on the trade block, but apparently somehow they got him, So there is that. And the cool thing is with him, even though he's due a lot of money, over the next 2 years, I want to say Jose Reyes gets paid more than he does.
Yeah.
So it's like they shed a little bit of money with that deal, just a little bit. So,
And also, I tweeted this out earlier. Price, excellent move to the list, guys. But Ben Revere was my favorite addition for them. I mean, left field, they're trotting out Danny Valencia, which that's not exactly an ideal situation. So now you have Revere in left field. No, I mean, he's not stellar, but I mean, he provides you better defense than Valencia. He's going to get on base. He's going to steal bases. He's going to set up Tulowitzki, Batista, Encarnacion, Donaldson so perfectly. And really, that's why. And he's under team control for the next 3 years. It's the perfect deal to me, and they didn't give up that much to get him.
No, and that's the thing too. It's like you look, but you also look at David Price in their rotation.
Yeah.
What were they lacking? Seriously, a guy that you could give the ball to and be comfortable with, because you're not as well as Mark Burley's pitches here, at least ERA wise. I think he's got like a 3.3. You're not going to rely on that guy in game one of the World's or a playoff. Like you're just going to be like, okay, please God, no. R.A. Dickey has been hit and miss. Aaron Sanchez they called up. He's still learning. Marco Estrada's been okay. They've been they patchworked their rotation.
Yep.
It's held together by like bubble gum and like what are the popsicle sticks? Like you're hoping to God that doesn't collapse. And now you get David Price. It's like, all right, David, you got this. They're 2 back of the wild card spot, so they're there. That's the cool thing that's the cool thing I like about the Blue Jays. They win for it, and I don't fault them for going for it.
Wait, I mean that's one thing because I mean Toronto. It's been I think 22 years since they last made the postseason.
They have not made the playoffs. They have not made the honest to God. They have not made the playoffs since Joe Carter hit the walk-off home run against Mitch Williams in the World Series.
Oh, wow.
We're talking 1993 World Series here. Like that's a long time.
Just for the record, I wasn't born then, so let's.
I was 8.
I'm sorry, Toronto.
I was 8. I was 8, and I remember watching that game with my brother. Like that is one of my earliest baseball memories. Is Joe Carter's walk-off home run against Mitch Williams? I swear to God, it's one of my earliest baseball memories right there.
Yeah. I mean, one thing you mentioned with the rotation, I mean, Mark Burley. It's even as a number one, that's just frightening that you would have to use him in that situation. Even as a number 2, I'm not very comfortable with it, but it's so much better than number 1. R.A. Dickey, inconsistent, troublesome, and Drew Hutchison, who they would have had to use as their number 3 starter in the postseason. He's been dreadful too, but now you can bump him down and just getting Price, huge acquisition, just makes the whole rotation so much easier. And don't sleep on the bullpen either, because I mean they have Ozuna, they could use Sanchez there, and and they picked up Mark Lowe.
Yeah, this is the thing with Toronto that I always got to try to remind people of too. Look where they play. They play in the Rogers Center, right? That's basically one of the best hitters' parks in the world.
Yep.
The ball flies out of there. So they got a guy Tulowitzki, who all he does is mash, right? And his OPS on the road is not what people think it would be. I think this year on the road, it's nearly even to at home.
Yeah. And
for his career, it's about I think it's like 840 or something, which, let's face it, if you're having a shortstop OPS and 840 on the road, that's a guy you like. So they got him. They get Ben Revere, like we said, who's on the base all the time now. Now you're getting guys who, yeah, you can make fun of them for wanting to outscore people every night, but what's the name of the game?
Yeah, outscore.
You got to outscore your opponent. Is their pitching great? No. David Price helps that they have a solid bullpen. The rest of the rotation, this is the thing. It's kind of like the Giants, right? Last year. You had one guy you could trust, and you hope to God everybody else somehow didn't suck. And that could be the Blue Jays. That could be the Royals. That could be the Astros. At least the Astros have more, but you know what I mean? Postseason's all about luck. Guys got to hit. Guys got to feel. Guys got to, catch the ball. Guys got to run. In the postseason, you don't have to you exert yourself more on every pitch. So now your starting pitchers are going 5 and 6 innings more rather than 7 or 8, but you're getting better stuff out of them.
Yes.
So with the Blue Jays, if you can get 5, that's probably enough. They just got to get there. I think they are going to get there.
Definitely. I mean, they'll be battling. I think they could potentially surpass the Yankees. I mean, I don't trust that Yankees rotation.
No, they just called up Luis Severino. So
I do like that, but I mean, but just over time, I think rotations get you more and more trouble as you go later into, so they potentially could pass them. Especially, yeah.
They could. They could. Fangraphs puts them at a 16% chance of the division. They have the Yankees at 76. So they have the Royals basically it's like a 50-50 for the playoffs. So we'll see about that.
And obviously one team that was we talked about them was Sellers. Obviously trade David Price. They just traded Jonas Cespedes today. Detroit Tigers, I was a big fan of what they did. What about you?
Yeah, so the Tigers, here's the thing. They were 3.5 out of the wild card spot, second wild card spot, which is what Chicago White Sox were, okay? Like we said earlier, White Sox said they were not going to be selling, they're going to be buying. So they tried to make a run for Cespedes too. Didn't get him, obviously he goes to the Mets. The Tigers realized, look, we kind of got to get something for David Price. He's probably not going to resign because our team is kind of in shambles. It was a good run, everybody. Let's just move on. They weren't going to get a compensation pick for Cespedes either because in his contract, it was written like when he opts for free agency, you don't get a compensation pick. So it's like, look, we got to move him or else we get literally nothing. So they got this. So now they got something for him. They got a good pitcher in him and Fulmer. Everything I've read about Fulmer has been great. But I did like the Price move. The Price move for them was basically, look, they got Daniel Norris as a good pitching prospect. They got 2 other lower-level pitching prospects. But the real key was Daniel Norris. And if Norris pitches well, that's a guy you have under team control.
Yep.
They had to rebuild. They foolishly decided to let Max Scherzer go. They just let him walk, which they should have not. They should have spent the money. Or they should have traded him last year when they had the chance. Justin Verlander has been terrible. Anibal Sanchez has been terrible. I tweeted out earlier today, you looked at the rotation on August 1st of last year. You had Price, Scherzer, Verlander, Porcello, and Sanchez. 2 of them are traded, 1 of them walked in free agency, and 2 of them suck. So basically, you're stuck in hell, and they got to get a way out of it, you know. So they had to make moves. They made them. I can't fault anything they did. They got 2 starting pitching prospects who were good. They got other peripheral guys. They traded Joaquin Soria, so at least they shed some salary a little bit. So, you know, they did what they had to do.
Yeah, and one other thing I like about the price, you mentioned Norris. He's going to be in their rotation right away. Next year he'll be better. And I also like the Matt Wood pickup because I mean good numbers in the minors, and he's close enough. In 2016, he could become a 4th, 5th starter for you. And I know people don't find 4th, 5th starters sexy, but when you have young, cheap 4th or 5th guys, I like that a lot. I mean, because people do look for them, and to have them cheap and you can rely on as that 4th or 5th guy, that's perfect to me.
Well, it's funny because one of the things I always get in arguments with people about is not everybody has to be Cy Young, right? Like, you don't need 5 guys trotting out there every day who are basically, you know, you don't need to trot out David Price and Clayton Kershaw and Zach Greinke and Dallas Keuchel and
Max Scherzer.
Yeah, Max Scherzer, right? That's like, you don't have to trot out 5 guys that basically like these guys are going to be awesome every day. You need guys who at some point can just eat innings. And that's a key. Because, look, one of the things is, would you rather have a great starting pitcher give you 5 or 6 innings every night, or would you rather have an average starting pitcher give you 7 or 8? Sometimes as a 4th or 5th starter, you want the guy going 7 or 8 just because, you know, at least it's saving your bullpen some days.
Yeah.
So I like what the Tigers did.
Yeah. And that's one thing, and this is kind of segueing to the Giants, but that was an issue for them all year. I mean, Ryan Vogelsong, Tim Hudson, Tim Lincecum, not only were they not doing anything, they couldn't get you to 5 innings. So you had to use up that bullpen. It's why the bullpen's been bad recently. They're worn down. They've had to call a bunch of guys up. So you need that guy who said, if he can give me 7 innings, maybe he gives up 4 runs, but I'm still going to be happy because he's saving my bullpen from doing too much work.
Right, and we've seen guys in the bullpen blow out arms, you know, like Paco Rodriguez has had arm troubles. You know, the Dodgers just moved him, but he's had arm troubles. One of the classic cases would be Johnny Venters, the former Braves guy.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't get a better 8-9 than Venters Kimbrel. You know, for like those 2 years, it was like you got to lead to the 7th to the 8th inning. And you know, Eric O'Flaherty that 1 year, so it was like you got to lead after 6. You were done, dude. You know, and it's now like that's the thing. And that's what the Royals did. That's what the Giants did. They had these bullpens last year. It was like you got these leads, and it was over. And that's all you needed. Yeah. So, you know. And that's the thing, too, like with the 4th and 5th guys, right? Here's the thing. In the season, if they can give you 7 innings of average baseball, that's fine. But in the playoffs, in a series, if they give you 5 quality innings of high-profile, high-effort pitches, that's all you need because you know your bullpen has off days.
Yep.
You know, so that's the thing.
Exactly. So jumping into the Giants, because I was getting Mike Leake, this was a trade that I absolutely loved. I mean, there was rumors thrown around about the Yankees potentially going after Leake. I hated that fit for him.
Yeah, I didn't like that for him.
Getting him to AT&T Park, where you have Brandon Crawford, Joe Panic in the middle infield. Yeah, I mean, it's very spacious, obviously. One of the best pitchers parks in baseball. He knows Bruce Bochy's son. He grew up a Giants fan. It is the perfect match for him. And he can be maybe in Cincinnati he was number 4 starter, though lately he has been phenomenal. But in San Francisco, I think he can be a very good number 3 starter.
Yeah, so here's the thing with Matt, I almost called him Matt Leake, but I remember watching Mike Leake at Arizona State, I believe. He was really good there. You know, so here's the thing. You said it. Panic and Crawford up the middle, right? One of the best middle infield combinations probably in baseball. So here's the thing. Now at third, you have Matt Duffy, good defender at third. At first, you have Brandon Bell, who can be passable, or Buster Posey if you put him there and have Susac behind the plate. Their outfield has Aoki, good defender. Blanco, average-ish, but, you know, he can get the balls. Hunter Pence, when he just came back again, right? I believe. Yeah. So You got these guys who like they have jobs, like like they're veterans, but they're also young enough to be able to get the things in the outfield. And that's the thing for the Giants is like now you got this defense, and then you got Mike Leake who gives up a ton of ground balls. So now he's getting to things. He doesn't strike out quite a bit of guys. I think he's at like 6 per 9. I think he strikes out something like 15% of the guys he faces, which isn't obviously good. But if he's getting guys to pound the ball into the dirt every 2 or 3 times an inning, what do you care?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing. Crawford's going to get to the ball in the hole. Pant's going to get to the ball in the hole. Duffy's going to get to the ball down the line. That's all you need.
Yeah. And the other thing that made him perfect fit is, one, he's an excellent fielding pitcher, which you look at them, they love that. And Chris Heston, Madison Bumgarner, they love pitchers who rake. And Mike Leake, once again, fits that mold. If you were to build a prototypical Giants pitcher, he fits what they like. And that's why, as some beat writers reported, they loved him when he was coming out of draft. Cincinnati got him 8th overall.
Yeah, the thing with him to always remember is he's never going to be a strikeout guy.
No.
But he's oddly good at getting, like we said, ground balls, but bad contact. Like, he reminds me a little bit of Jared Weaver. Like, he's not going to strike guys out, really, but he's going to get you to, he's going to get you with his changeup and his slider and his junk delivery. He's going to get guys out. Like, he's going to make guys get themselves out. And he's going to go deep into games because of that. And that's a big deal. And that's what I think the Giants can really get out of him is, like, this is a guy who's 27. He's in his prime. He is what he is, but he's good. Not all, like, everyone thinks you always need this flamethrower who's going to strike out 10 guys per 9 innings, but you don't need that guy.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like in the book. It's like in the book that you're reading and I've read, right? One of the cool things that Clayton Kershaw ever said in that entire book was, once I stopped trying to strike everybody out and be perfect with every pitch, I learned how good I could really be. And that's basically a Sandy Koufax quote. Because I remember Sandy Koufax one time said, someone asked him, when did you turn the corner with pitching? He said, when I stopped realizing I needed to make, he said, when I realized I don't need to make everybody strike out. When I started pitching to contact, he said. So that's the thing, You got to get guys out early in counts to be successful sometimes.
Yeah, and as much as I love Tim Hudson, he's had a phenomenal career. Just on Sunday, he picked up a win against Athletics, who he's now beaten all 30 MLB teams.
Really?
But he was done. He was done as a pitcher. It's been obvious that the past few weeks and starts, he's not a reliever, so he had no position on this team. But they were trotting him out there with Vogelsong in the bullpen. And now with Leake here, that bumps Hudson out. He's going on the disabled list. But yeah, so it's a disappointing way for Hudson's career to end, given all he's done. And yes, and he became the 15th pitcher ever to beat all 30 teams.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's actually really impressive. I'm gonna assume Nolan Ryan's one of them.
And Dan Herron, who's also traded today.
Was he? Has he really? Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Dan Herron has been pretty much everywhere, so that makes sense. But it's funny because the Giants improved with 1 starting pitcher. The Dodgers improved with 2.
Dodgers phenomenal trade. I just love what they did.
Yeah, this is the thing. Okay, people have crapped on the Dodgers for even acquiring Matt Latos, right? Because you look at Matt Latos, you see a 4.5 ERA, you see a guy who's basically, he's pitched a lot of innings already. He's already over 1,000 innings in his career. I believe he's still only 27. So that's a lot of innings for a guy at 27 already. But here's the thing. His peripheral stats love him. His fielding independent pitching is 3.35. He's striking out 8 guys per 9. He's getting more ground balls than he did last year. His left on base percentage is down by 7%, 7.5%, which means he's getting unlucky. So he's not getting guys out. His defense isn't helping him basically. His home runs fly ball ratio is up 2% from last year and 3% from 2.5% from the 2 years ago, but it's going to come back down because now he's going to be pitching in Dodger Stadium. Here's the thing. we've seen Matt Latos be good.
Yep.
What's the difference between Matt Latos this year and Matt Latos last year, who had a 3.25 ERA? It's the same guy, and in fact, he's striking out a batter and a half more per inning this year than he was last year. It's just he's getting unlucky in that Marlins ballpark and with those defenders.
Yeah.
His velocity's up from last year with his fastball. He's pitching up in the zone less, which is good. So here's the thing. You might not think Matt Latos has had a good year, but don't question him turning around for 2 months and being a number 4 starter in the rotation for a playoff series.
And since he's returned from the disabled list, he's been phenomenal. I mean, just this month, he's made 1.80 ERA, 20 inning pitch. He's turning it around.
Right, and then they got Alex Wood. Okay,
Yep.
and say what you want about Alex Wood. Yeah, he's having a down year from last year. Base ERA, fielding independent pitching, striking out less guys, walking more guys. But here's the thing. Projectable lefty under team control. And he's not even having a bad year. Like a 3.54 ERA, 340 FIP, not bad. Those are good. So, number 3 starter, he plays. And what does a team like the Giants have? They have Brandon Bell, who's a left-handed hitter. Alex Wood gets lefties out. They have Nori Aoki, a left-handed hitter. Alex Wood gets lefties out. Brandon Crawford, left-handed hitter. Joe Panik, left-handed hitter. Like, he gets lefties out. And that's a big deal. Like, think about the guys that they're going to have to face in the playoffs, you know? Like, the Arizona Cardinals with Matt Adams, you know, if and when he plays for them, there's another guy who can get him out. What's it called? Colton Wong, lefty hitter, that can get him out. Then you look at the National League. Bryce Harper can get him out. You know, so you're getting these guys who, yeah, they don't seem sexy, but they're good depth picks. And then they got Avalon and
Jim Johnson.
Thank you. So they got him, or they got them, I should say. They got the lovable Brandon Bronson Arroyo contract, which I don't even know how Bronson Arroyo even still had a contract. Swear to God, you know. So, but then they got Jose Peraza, and that's actually my favorite thing about that deal. They get Peraza, okay, and this is the cool thing. Andrew Friedman, the new Dodgers regime, has said we want to improve defense up the middle. Jimmy Rollins and Howie Kendrick are tire fires up the middle, okay? So here's the thing. Jock Peterson, really good defensive center fielder. But next year, this is not even just a play for this year, but for next year, you get Peraza. If you put him at second base, now you got Peraza and Corey Seager. Okay? And then you still got Justin Turner at third. Or if you want, you really amplify Peraza's value, put him as shortstop, have Seager at third, then move Turner to second. Either way, you have options. And that's the cool thing with the Dodgers is going into the offseason is you don't have to pay to keep Howie Kendrick around. You know, like, it's not worth it anymore if you're going to get Peraza and just put him in there every day.
Yeah. I mean, that's something you mentioned that Alex Wood is cheap. Alex Wood is cheap. Latest contract expiring. Kendricks can be gone. So you're going to have plenty of money to spend. I mean, Dodgers have unlimited money. Anyway.
We're going to have money either way, but yeah.
Yeah. The one thing I can't understand, though, is this deal for Atlanta. I don't get why you give up Peraza and Alex Wood, and in return, you get a 30-year-old Hector Oliveira. I just don't get it.
Well, they also got Zach Bird, and Zach Bird's solid. The thing is, he's still in high A. I want to say he's 21, but he's a good, solid pitching prospect, okay? So he is good. Paco Rodriguez, when healthy, is a good lefty reliever against other lefties. And I love Paco Rodriguez. I always love Paco Rodriguez because when healthy, he gets lefties out. Oliveira is interesting. When the Dodgers signed him, they thought he could play second base. Then they learned, holy crap, he can't play second base. He's really terrible up the middle. Let's put him at third, maybe left field. Well, here's the thing. Now you're asking a 30-year-old guy to potentially play left field, who's probably never played left field in his life outside of probably pickup games, okay? But if you stick him at 30, he has value. Third base, obviously, as we all know, more valuable than left field, right? So he has value there. The issue is if he is not hitting, he's horrible. he has to be hitting. He reminds me of Nelson Cruz in that regard. Like, in the field, he's going to suck. But at the plate, he could be great.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, just from what Atlanta, it seemed like an odd move, especially given Teheran may be on the move report, and maybe it doesn't happen this year, but in the offseason. And then I don't know if they'll develop those pitching prospects they have because they're all high risk, high reward guys. So just, I don't know. I'm not totally sure what they're doing there.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see. Wait and see with the Braves. They shed a ton of salary, which is the only thing. But
yeah,
I believe they do have the richest owner in baseball. I think the majority owner, like he's worth like $8 billion or something. If he wants to spend money, they can. But who the hell do you spend money on? Are you going to sign Justin Upton again to bring him back? No, you're not going to. And he wouldn't go back. You know, like, it is what it is. But this trade deadline was fun. You know, I mean, it shifted the balance. Astros and Royals are the two top teams in the American League now. Yankees are there, but I don't like. You know, you and I agree with this. I don't trust them.
Yeah.
Betances and Miller, I love them to death. Okay, that's the best 8-9 in baseball. If they get a lead, you just pack up after the 7th inning and go the hell home because you're not winning that game. But they're gonna burn out at some point.
Yep.
So we'll see.
And what about your Angels? I mean, they didn't have a sexy trade deadline, but I mean, Shane Victorino, David Murphy, David DeJesus. What did you think about what the moves they made?
Puzzle pieces. They had to get something. Victorino kills lefties. David Murphy does well against righties. You can platoon them in left field. You know, Trout just came back after 2 games. They obviously lost yesterday on a brutal walk-off home run by Jason Castro. You know, but, you know, it happens. I'm not in love with what they did, but they did what they had to do. They got pieces that are going to play. None of them really have contracts running past last year outside of like team options, which you can decline. I think Murphy and DeJesus have them for like a combined $1.5 million. Which if you're already paying Josh Hamilton $80-something million to not play for you, you can pay those two whatever the hell you want.
It's the moves, but the thing is, I mean, and I wrote about this a little earlier. Little tiny moves can make a huge difference. No one thought anything back a few years ago when Giants picked up Cody Ross off waivers. He turned into a huge thing. Maybe that doesn't happen, but DeJesus, David Murphy, even Shane Victor, maybe they give you a few good at-bats if the Athletics Angels make the playoffs. And it's just those little moves. I still like them.
Yeah, that's the thing is like the Angels made moves for the postseason, but they didn't break up anything.
No.
Like, they still have the pitching that they need. You know, C.J. Wilson just won the disabled list with elbow inflammation. You know, so that's the whole thing with that. And, you know, if they can pitch and stuff, that's kind of what it's coming down to. Their pitching rotation's pretty much better than it was last year. So if they can hit and field, it's all gravy.
And so what are some other trades that jumped out to you from this entire week?
Let's see. There was – I don't know why the Yankees acquired Dustin Ackley at all. That's a really weird trade. Jonathan Broxton of the Cardinals could be good for them. Trying to think of some of the other. I liked Kevin Jepsen to the Twins. That's a solid one. We didn't really talk about Cespedes to the Mets. But here's the thing with that. This is Cespedes' second best season hitting wise outside of his rookie year. So like his rookie year was his best year. This is his second best year. It's his best fielding year. So this is probably like his best year overall. But the thing that you got to remember is he's going to be 30. He's not going to be a long-term thing for the Mets. I don't think they're going to spend money to keep him. And the other thing to keep an eye on with him is that's a cavernous ballpark. But he could hit home runs there more than he did in Comerica because I think left field in Citi Field's a little bit more forgiving than Comerica was. Do I think he's the piece that pushes them into the playoffs? I don't know. But he could help enough to get the Mets in there, which is all they need to get into is in there. Because now you get let's say one game playoff, right? Now you got Matt Harvey. Now let's say you win that 1-game playoff. What do you have? You have Syndergaard and you have
DeGrom.
thank you, DeGrom. You know, so you have those two. Now it's like then you got Harvey for game 3. So it's like you got people, and you got Cologne for a game 4 if you want. You know, so it's like you have these people, and the Mets just have to get into the playoffs. And then maybe they can hit enough in the playoff to win 2-1, 1-0, stuff like that. You know, they upgraded their bullpen with Tyler Clippard. Yuri's Familia, you know, he is what he is. What was it? Henry Mejia now just got busted for stuff, so he's going to be gone
because
for a while.
he got caught again during his suspension.
Yeah, that's just I mean, it is what it is. But I do like that. I did like the Cubs getting Tommy Hunter because it does improve their bullpen a little bit. They gave up Junior Lake. Junior Lake didn't have a spot with them.
Nothing.
You know, so what was it? Dodgers got Jose Tabata for Michael Morse.
Baltimore.
What happened?
Parra to Baltimore.
That was a good one for Baltimore. I like Gerardo Parra. Padres sneakily always getting the one guy who seems to get traded every year, Mark Jepchinski, if I can say his name correctly, because that's one of the Jepchinski. There we go. So, you know, I feel like he's been traded like 8 times on deadline day, but maybe I'm wrong on that one. Actually, this was the 3rd time in the last 4 years he's been dealt on deadline day. He was traded, or 3rd time in the last 6 years. Let's see. 2011 he was traded, 2013, so this will be, what, 3rd time in 5 years? Yeah, there we go. 3rd time in 5 years. Hilariously enough, in 2011 when Jepchinski was traded, he was also traded with the guy who's been traded like every deadline day, which is Octavio Dotel. I'm shocked Dotel still doesn't pitch him. He would have been traded again. You know, so that's the thing. I like what some of these teams did. I feel like I'm forgetting a deal. Brandon Moss of the Cardinals is okay.
Yeah.
They had to do something.
I like the return for Cleveland.
Yeah. Yeah, Kaminsky. I like the return for them too. I felt like the Cardinals got pressured into that just because of the Holiday injury.
Yep.
You know, so we haven't talked about Cole Hamels.
Cool. Yeah.
Cole Hamels to Texas. If Texas believes they can still make it this year, that's a good trade. Otherwise, it's good for them going forward. I like Diekman, even though he's struggled, but I like him. But Texas gave up a lot.
They did.
You know, they gave up Harrison, who had money, but then they gave up Thompson, Williams, Alfaro, 2 other lower-level pitchers. It's like, hope you don't need them, you know, because Nick Williams is good. Real good. Alfaro has to hit to be productive. He strikes out, I think, quite a bit. But he's a good defensive catcher, which it seems like every catcher who comes up now is a good defensive catcher, because if you're a good offensive catcher, you never play catcher.
No. Well, there's like still Gary Sanchez.
Yeah, you know. Not everyone could be Pudge Rodriguez anymore, I guess, you know, so there's a thing there. Trying to think of what else. There was something else that happened, I think. Your rebate to the Mets is good.
Uribe and Kelly Johnson.
Yeah, that's solid for them. Cishek to Cardinals is good. Angels really kind of struck it rich with Connor Gillespie for literally nothing but money, because he's produced some really good at-bats for them. And I want to say with the Angels, he's already driven in like 4 runs in like 4 games or something. So he's produced with them. Here it is. He's 6 for 16 with them, with four RBIs, 2 doubles and a triple. So, you know, Aramis Ramirez of the Pirates is a good move. Scott Kazman, we've talked about, is a good move.
Pirates just got J.A. Happ, which, yeah.
It's what, you know, I don't mind what the Pirates are doing. They're getting guys who in hopes of reclamation projects.
Yeah.
That's like, hey, we just need you for 2 months. Show out for 2 months and we'll be all right with you. You know, so that's kind of how I feel with that. I'm okay with what the Pirates. I'm okay with a lot of what the teams did. I don't know if there's a real loser. Because people say the Padres are losers. I don't believe that. I've seen people list the Dodgers and stuff because they didn't get like a top of the rotation. I don't believe that.
Ridiculous.
yeah, now you're just splitting hairs. I'm cool with what everybody got, really.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a. I can't. I'm going division by division. I mean,
If the Mets didn't screw up the damn Gomez trade, because think about it, they had Gomez and Cespedes with Granderson, but then again, I understand what people would have said, which is, where do you play Michael Kadire? But
I'll worry about that later.
yeah, like you get talent, you go from there, So, like, why not just play Cespedes in right field on days when Kadire wants to play against lefties?
What did you think about the Tulowitzki deal for Colorado?
Okay, like, I'm trying to think of like how to put this really. They were never going to get a lot for him in terms of like, oh my God, because he did have so much money left on his deal. Jose Reyes isn't a bad get for them. The prospects they got were not a bad get for them. I think it allows them to retool and then move Reyes in the offseason when he's on like a 1-year deal. Because I think he has a club option for 2 years from now. So like you can pretty much move him as like a 1-year guy and whatever. So I think they can move him. That'll be the real test to see what they can get for him. I think Reyes away from Toronto is good because at least he's not on turf anymore. So we'll see. That's the cool thing for Toronto too, is like Tulowitzki, even if he's having bad days with his knees, you just DH him.
Yeah.
And so there's options for everybody involved. I don't look at that deal as like a, oh my God, Toronto got Colorado got fleeced, more as like, I think Colorado kind of got what they were going to get.
Agree, absolutely.
And there's obviously fans of teams on Twitter after every trade. If that's all it took, why don't we get in there? It's like, okay, first off, that's not all it took. Secondly, maybe the team that traded him didn't like the guys that your team was going to offer. Like the Angels weren't going to give up Sean Newcomb. They weren't going to give up Andrew Heaney. They weren't going to give up Nick Tropiano. They're not going to give up these young cost control pitchers. Like, why would they? CJ Wilson, as we found out today, heading to the DL, elbow inflammation. So, it's like his contract, I think, runs through next year. Jared Weaver's contract runs through next year. So you need these young guys. So it is what it is. And in non-baseball news, I just saw on Twitter passing by, Roddy Piper just passed away. The Hall of Fame wrestler. So that is a sad end to this day.
Yes, it is.
Man, but yeah,
we are ending on a grim note.
I know. I'm sorry. I felt like I had to report that one. So yeah.
So we do. Before we end, we do have August coming up. Who do you think the biggest player moved? And I mean, I'm bringing this up partially because just reading, and Smokey, you recommend, so I'm gonna give it a shout because the best team money can buy about the Los Angeles Dodgers. Phenomenal book. I don't really read books that much, so when I'm saying that this is a phenomenal book that I'm loving reading, that I mean that sincerely. So just check it out. It's a phenomenal book, and it mentions the Adrian Gonzalez trade a few years ago. So, and that trade came obviously in August. So, what do you think could be the biggest player move during the August waiver deadline?
Pablo Sandoval, in terms of name. I do think the Red Sox could try to rid themselves of that. Let's see. I'm trying to think of somebody else. Don't put it past the Rockies to still deal Carlos Gonzalez at the waiver deadline. People always act like no one can get traded after the waiver after July 31st, but people get traded all the time.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Trying to think of somebody else.
Shields at all?
Shields, yeah, Shields could. For instance, if things go really poorly for the Padres in the next 19 games or something, like let's say over the next 10 games they go 5-5, I think they'd sell them off. I think the Padres have to go like 7-3 in the next 10. You got to build on it. After that, I don't know. trying to think.
Yeah, Pablo's the most interesting name you mentioned because, I mean, obviously, when he was leaving San Francisco, many were doubtful about how he would transition to a big market where once he wasn't hitting well, pressure was on him, how he would handle that. But also, he hated the Giants getting on him about his weight. And obviously, he's put the weight back on in Boston. Now they're getting on him for that. So how that situation shakes out is going to be fascinating.
Yeah, here's the thing. When you're beloved by everybody, you think you can do no wrong.
Yep.
With him, I look at it a little bit like him with Puig. Obviously, not even close. And I could spend hours about Yasiel Puig. Okay, so I won't.
Puig.
Team Puig. I won't do that. Here's the thing. He's got to be motivated, and he's got to have someone who pushes the right buttons. I don't think Boston does that.
No.
I don't blame him for taking the Boston money because, let's be honest, we all would have done the same thing. I always crack up when I see people when people on Twitter are like, why do you take more money to play there when he's obviously unhappy there now? It's like, well, you don't think you're going to be unhappy when you're making $25 million a year. So Giants dodged a bullet, though.
They did.
And
even in a bigger way because they offered a little bit more money than Boston.
Did they really? I did not know that.
Yeah.
Was it a shorter-term deal or was it the same?
I believe it was the same deal. He just said he was tired of San Francisco. Wanted a new experiment.
That's a huge cultural shift then.
Yeah. And Matt Duffy for about $600,000. Much better.
Well, it's funny because it's like that situation I kind of liken to the Angels with Johnny Giavotella and Howie Kendrick.
Yeah.
Like now, obviously, Giavotella is not as good as Kendrick overall, but it's like you're getting somewhat similar production for like I think Kendrick's making like $9 million or something like that this year. So it's like you're spending $8.5 million less, man, and then you also got Andrew Heaney out of it. So
yep.
Got to look at the bright side. Every deal. It's hard to evaluate deals right away because prospects can flame out. Guys who get traded somewhere can also flame. Like David Price could blow his arm out, like God forbid, right? So like you never know. And not everybody's always Randy Johnson after going to Houston, because we all remember. I don't know if you remember Randy Johnson when he got to Houston, he was steamrolling people with the Astros, and at the time, the Astros gave up a ton for him. It was like John Halama and a couple other guys who were really good, and it was seen as like a, oh my god package. And then so we'll see.
Overall, that's the final thing. I mean, with some of these deals, the smallest prospect name, he could turn out to be the biggest piece in the deal 5 years down the line, for all we know.
You just don't know. Some guys, the light flicks on fourth year, like in the minors, like, holy crap, I can hit now. You just don't know. Like, for instance, for the Angels, Caleb Coward, right? First round pick from, I believe, 2010. Been terrible as a hitter all the way through, like, Double-A. I mean, like, terrible, okay? He was, like, average. He was, like, a 220 hitter his entire career. Gets to Salt Lake City in Triple-A. All of a sudden, he can't not hit. Like, he's hitting everything. Yeah, I think he's hitting like 320 now. It's like, holy crap. But then you got to take it with a grain of salt. It's like, that's AAA. Those are hitters' parks. So, you don't know. Like you don't know what guys are capable of until you do challenge them. And some guys just get stagnant at a level. Like, you're at Double-A for 3 years. Do you really keep busting your ass every day? Probably not.
No, I don't.
You feel like you're going nowhere. So who knows?
Absolutely. And Justin,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I want to thank you so much for coming on. I mean, as MLB Trade Deadline was approaching, I knew just having you on was going to be perfect timing for it. So I loved it.
Anytime. You know me, I'll talk about anything.
Anything.
Literally anything. Trade deadline day in baseball is one of those days where I think it's kind of fun to just kick back and watch what happens. I think a lot of teams did well. I think sometimes some teams did okay. I don't look at any team and go, they did horribly, I kind of look at it as the Dodgers are still the team to beat in the National League. it sounds crazy because he hasn't been great in the playoffs, or at least dominant in the playoffs, I should say. But he who has Kershaw makes the rules. So
Yeah.
you got Kershaw, Greinke. You only need the two of them, I guess. I mean, like let's be realistic. That's as close to Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling as we're getting.
Yep.
So it's always fun to think about. Like Kershaw's on pace for the first 300 strikeout season in baseball since 2002, which was Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling. So let's keep it all in perspective with what's going on there. You know, we'll see. Dodgers are team to beat. I worry about the Nationals just because something seems off with that team. Can you trust the Nationals to be consistent? I can't. You know, the Giants are always going to be there because Giants. Devil magic. So we'll see. We'll see what happens in the last 2 months of the season. Hopefully the Angels can make the playoffs. I want people to realize once you get in the playoffs, anything can happen.
Yep.
And as you said,
Chris.
And as you said, buy Best Team Money Can Buy. That's an amazing book. I loved Molly Knight, the way she intertwined every chapter with things. It was fantastic. It was just awesome. So yeah.
And where can people follow you on Twitter? Because I'm telling, he talks about anything. Just follow him. I mean, he could talk. Yeah, just follow him. So where can people follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at FlyByNight. It's FLYBYKNITE. I spell it weird because that's what I am. I'm weird. Yeah, I'll talk about anything. You tweet me something, I'll try to talk about it. I watch shows. I watch sports. I watch literally anything. This coming season with the Clippers, I'm going to be doing a film room series for every game. Every game. So, yeah. The cool thing is, though, I might be having help with that. I might be having someone get me tape for it. So rather than me actually having to chop the footage myself, someone might be able to just do it for me. So it creates it's less for me to really do.
Yeah.
So yeah, and this week I will be releasing. This coming week I will be releasing a film room series on both Josh Smith and Lance Stevenson. So if people care to read about basketball and film room stuff, there you go.
Now I just have to ask them this: are you into the whole masticism thing because you watched Josh Smith?
I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. No, but it's actually funny. Like I'm warming up to Josh Smith and Lance. Lance is saying all the right things. I'm a little bit on Josh's side for how everyone twisted his words about, what he said at the press conference about how he complained he's not being paid enough money. So. I'm on Josh's team for that, but basically, tweet to me about anything at FlyByNight. I'll be there. I write about, you can find my work. If you go on my Twitter profile, you'll find where I write. So,
and again, I want to thank Justin for coming on. I want to thank everyone for watching Burn the Ships MLB Trade Deadline.
Oh, and get the book, because if you don't know what Burn the Ships means, you got to get the book. You got to get the book. Best Team Money Can Buy. You got to get the book. Burn the Ships.
And, yeah, just for people who follow me, I'm going to be using Burn the Ships a lot from now on.
Yeah, for everything.
Yep. This is Burn the Ships signing off.